What if the loudest thing David Beckham has said about his own son is absolutely nothing? No angry interview. No emotional press conference. No public defense. Just a few calm words about mistakes, discipline, and earning your place. And suddenly the internet is connecting dots faster than a detective board in a crime movie. Because here's the question nobody can stop asking. Was David Beckham really talking about life lessons, or was he quietly talking about Brooklyn? And why does it feel like every sentence he says about responsibility hits a little too close to home? This isn't screaming family drama. This is something colder. Something sharper. Something way more uncomfortable. The kind of tension that doesn't need volume, just timing. Brooklyn is talking independence. David is talking accountability. Victoria is posting proud moments with the other kids. And the silence around Brooklyn? Deafening. So what happens when a father who built his life on discipline watches his son build a career on restarts? Is this about control? Disappointment? Or a lesson being taught without a single name being mentioned? Because David Beckham didn't say Brooklyn's name. But somehow, everyone knew.
So that's what I try to teach my kids, but you have to sometimes let them make those mistakes as well.
And the more you listen to David's recent interviews, the stranger it starts to feel. Because on the surface, he's just being a dad. Calm, polite, measured, talking about how kids need to make mistakes, how they need to learn the hard way, how success isn't handed down. It's earned through effort, discipline, and consistency. Normal parenting talk, right? Except this isn't a normal dad. This is David Beckham. A man whose entire life story is built on grit, obsession, and surviving public humiliation only to come back stronger. A man who was booed by his own country, dragged by headlines, and still trained harder than everyone in the room. So when he talks about earning success and owning your mistakes, it doesn't sound like advice. It sounds like a message. And the internet noticed. Because at the exact same time David is talking about responsibility, Brooklyn is out there talking about independence. About space. About building his own life away from the family narrative. Two conversations happening in public. Two completely different meanings. And they don't match. Brooklyn's story, at least from the outside, looks like freedom. New ventures. New passions. New identities. But when you rewind the tape, something uncomfortable starts to show. Football. Photography. Cooking. Business ideas. Brand launches. Each one arriving with hype. Each one fading into silence. Not failure, because failure is normal, but a pattern. A pattern of starting loud and ending quietly. And for a father like David Beckham, that pattern must hit differently. Because David's entire life is the opposite pattern. Start small. Work silently. Finish strong. So when he says, sometimes you have to let them make those mistakes, it doesn't feel like a random parenting quote. It feels like the most diplomatic way possible to say, I can't fix this for him anymore. What makes this even more intense is what the Beckhams are not doing. They are not defending Brooklyn publicly. They are not correcting narratives. They are not rushing to protect his image like powerful families usually do. They are just quiet. And in a family that understands media better than almost anyone alive, silence is never accidental. While Brooklyn trends for interviews about distance and independence, David and Victoria are trending for something else entirely, standing proudly next to Romeo and Cruz.
So we have 4 dogs, and the way she treats them, I feel like you're going to be the most amazing mum with our kids.
Oh, I love you.
That. Yeah.
Runway shows, music performances, family events, smiles, applause, celebration. And nobody has to say anything for the comparison to start screaming on its own. Romeo picked fashion, and stayed there. Cruz picked music, and stayed there. Consistency, growth, progress. That's the word that keeps coming up when people talk about them. Progress. Meanwhile, Brooklyn's story feels like a collection of reboots. And here's where the tension turns from gossip into something psychological. Because this isn't about whether Brooklyn is talented or not. It's about something far more uncomfortable. Follow-through. He's had access to everything. Elite training. Top connections. Major platforms. Opportunities most people would beg for. And yet, the one thing critics keep pointing out is the one thing money and fame can't buy. Endurance. Which is exactly the trait David Beckham respects most. That's why his interviews feel different now. That's why his words feel heavier than usual. Because he's not angry. He's not emotional. He's not dramatic. He's disappointed in a way that sounds calm. And calm disappointment is far louder than shouting. Brooklyn talks about carving his own path. But from the outside, it looks like he's still walking on roads built by his last name. And the public is starting to ask a brutal question that no one in the family is saying out loud. What happens when the Beckham name stops carrying the weight? Because at some point, every famous child has to prove they can stand without the spotlight that raised them. And right now, it feels like Brooklyn is trying to step away from the spotlight without building anything solid in the shadows first. That's the clash. Not control. Not rebellion. Values. David Beckham believes you earn your identity through hard work. Brooklyn Beckham seems to believe he can find his identity by stepping away. Two philosophies. Same family. Completely different outcomes. And the most chilling part, David never once said his son's name. He didn't need to. And just when people thought this was simple father-son tension, a new layer made everything feel even more uncomfortable. Because the conversation online quietly shifted from "is Brooklyn struggling" to something far sharper. Is Brooklyn actually dependent on everyone around him? Not financially struggling. Not emotionally lost. But structurally dependent on the safety nets built by other people's success. And that's where Nicola Peltz's name enters the chat in a way nobody expected. Brooklyn constantly credits Nicola for his peace, his confidence, his stability, his independence. He talks about her like she's the anchor that helped him step away from family pressure and finally be himself. Sounds romantic, supportive, sweet. But to critics, and possibly even to David watching from a distance, it raises a dangerous question. If your independence only exists because someone else is holding you steady, is that really independence? Because Nicola's world is not just wealthy. It's powerful, deeply connected, corporate-level influence, billionaire-level insulation from real-world consequences. So now people aren't just looking at Brooklyn as David Beckham's son. They are looking at him as Nicola Peltz's husband. And suddenly the identity problem gets even bigger. Because if you remove the Beckham name, and you remove the Peltz safety net, what's left? That question started trending quietly in comment sections, forums, reaction videos. Not from haters. From observers. Observers who noticed that every new Brooklyn venture still seems to be supported by visibility, not mastery. Access, not progression. Attention, not evolution. His cooking clips go viral, but not because chefs are impressed. His brands get attention, but not because industry experts are blown away. His appearances happen, but not because he fought his way there. It's always the same pattern. Doors open easily. Progress stalls quickly. And that's when the word people used as a joke for years started to feel less funny and more accurate. Nepo baby. Not as an insult. As an explanation. Because nepotism can open doors. But it can't keep you inside the room if you don't prove you belong there. Meanwhile, Romeo is still walking runways season after season. Cruz is still writing songs, performing live, building slowly. No viral hype. No sudden rebrands. Just steady growth. And every time Victoria posts about them, every time David shows up smiling at their milestones, the internet doesn't see proud parents. They see a message. A message about which kids are aligning with the Beckham philosophy. Show up, stay consistent, earn respect. And which one isn't? That's why David's calm interviews hit so hard. Because when he talks about using his platform for purpose, teaching his kids responsibility, letting them make mistakes so they learn, it doesn't feel like general advice anymore. It feels like a father watching from a distance, knowing he can't step in this time. Knowing that some lessons only hit when the safety net stops feeling comfortable. And maybe that's what this silence really is. Not punishment. Not anger. But a quiet decision to let Brooklyn feel what life looks like without constant image protection. To let the world see the cracks. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a parent can do is stop covering for you. And this is where the story stops feeling like gossip and starts feeling like a reckoning. Because for the first time, people aren't asking whether Brooklyn is misunderstood. They are asking whether he's finally being seen clearly. 4 years, every restart was met with excitement. Football prodigy. Creative photographer. Celebrity chef. Budding entrepreneur. Each new identity rolled out with glossy headlines and instant platforms. But now, when you line them all up, it doesn't look like exploration. It looks like escape. Escape from commitment. Escape from mastery. Escape from the uncomfortable phase where progress is slow, quiet, and painfully unglamorous. And that's the exact phase David Beckham built his entire life on. Which is why this silent standoff feels so intense. David represents endurance. Brooklyn represents reinvention. David stayed in the fire until he earned respect. Brooklyn keeps stepping out before the heat gets real. That contrast is what the public can't unsee anymore. And the Beckhams know it. That's why their silence isn't defensive. It's confident. Almost surgical. They are not rushing to correct narratives because, for the first time, the narrative isn't attacking them. It's exposing something they've probably seen for years. A son with every advantage in the world, still searching for something solid to stand on. And the most uncomfortable part? Brooklyn's attempt to create distance may have done the opposite. Instead of proving independence, it highlighted how much of his life is still cushioned by legacy, wealth, and connection. Because real independence doesn't need to be announced. It shows up in results. It shows up in years of consistency. In progress people can measure. In growth nobody can deny. Romeo has it. Cruz is building it. Brooklyn is still talking about it. And David, without saying a single harsh word, seems to be letting that reality speak for itself. No public arguments. No emotional interviews. Just carefully chosen words about mistakes, responsibility, and learning the hard way. Words that feel less like advice and more like a mirror being held up quietly. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. This isn't about Brooklyn failing. It's about Brooklyn never staying long enough anywhere to succeed. And that's what hits hardest for a father whose entire identity is built on not quitting when things get tough. So when David says kids need to make mistakes and learn from them, it doesn't sound soft. It sounds final. Like a man who has accepted that this lesson can't be taught with guidance anymore. Only experience. And maybe that's why this moment feels so heavy. Because love in the Beckham household might be unconditional. But respect? That still has to be earned. So now the real question isn't what David Beckham said. It's what he didn't say. Because sometimes silence is louder than any headline, any interview, any public statement. And right now, that silence is echoing across the internet louder than Brooklyn's words ever did. Is Brooklyn truly misunderstood? Or is this the moment the world is finally seeing the difference between privilege and persistence? Was this really about freedom from family pressure, or a quiet escape from the pressure to prove himself? And if David's calm words about mistakes weren't random parenting advice, then who are they really meant for? Because one thing is clear, this isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. This is a story about legacy, values, and what happens when opportunity meets a lack of follow-through. A father who built everything from discipline. A son still searching for direction. A family saying nothing, and somehow saying everything. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Brooklyn is just finding himself like anyone else would? Or do you think David Beckham's silence is the biggest message of all? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is getting louder by the minute. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the drama behind the spotlight, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more stories that expose what's really happening behind celebrity smiles. Because sometimes, the truth isn't in what's said, it's in what's carefully left unsaid.